are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 330 of the College Loop Podcast. I am Larck at your boy Tank on Twitter. Talk to me later at the latest in Auburn athletics news. And sorry, my entire setup is glitching, so excuse me as I get some housewarming done. There we go. As we are here to talk today about the latest in Auburn recruiting news, because Auburn is solidifying himself as the top 5 class almost across the board. On threes, getting a little slow with it as they currently have Auburn number 6, but Rivals and 24/7 both have Auburn as a top 5 class in the class of 2025 after the addition of 1 5-star Jared Smith. And of course, I'm going to say it on 24/7 because they do the composite rankings, but as it currently stands, their regular rankings, Auburn now has 2 5-stars in Jared Smith and Malik Autry. If you can count a third, you can count 3 if you go for John Allen McGuire as well, who's a 5-star punter, top 2 in the country. But a huge pickup from Thompson. Auburn has been absolutely killing the game when it comes to picking up guys from Thompson. If I'm not mistaken, 2 guys have already committed and they're more on the way. Auburn has 3 with John Allen McGuire and Anquan Fegans, as well as Jared Smith, all committing to the Tigers. And of course, you got a quarterback there as well, who's a class 2027 guy who Auburn is heavily recruiting always. But absolutely huge pickup. Again, number 2 overall player in the state of Alabama, number 2 overall player at the edge rusher position, number 19 nationally in the country, as well as, he chose Auburn over Florida State, Southern California, South Carolina. Sorry, I get my USCs confused with each other all the time. Ole Miss and Georgia. But according to him, it has always been Auburn. There was my favorite picture that I've seen from his recruitment. I was there with. I was not there, but I was watching his recruitment, his commitment video on his live stream while I was actually in Tennessee yesterday for at the Tennessee Aquarium. So I was trying to keep up with that. But I just saw a funny picture of him. I can't remember who from On 3 posted it, but I think it might have been Cole Pinkston. A picture of him and his family all wearing Alabama gear, except for him wearing with an Auburn hat. So I think that's really cool. And I mean, just going based off the list, I have an updated list here again. If you look at it, only 2 out of 10 players in the top 10 players that have Alabama are not committed to the Tigers. Naeem Offord is a guy who I know Auburn is heavily recruiting after right now, trying to get him to flip. Zion Grady, I've not heard too much about him ever since his commitment to Ohio State. I know that Alabama kind of backed off on him a while ago, but I don't know how likely it is Auburn flips him. But Naeem Offord is a guy. If Auburn were to get a 9th player out of Alabama, out of the top 10 at least, it might be Naeem Offord, which would be an absolutely just huge pickup. Auburn is loaded up across the board at every position. Quarterback is the one that we're still waiting to hear about. I know that Deuce Knight, we'll talk about him in just a little bit, has been one that's kind of came to the light a lot more. But this list kind of speaks for itself. Jared Smith, number 2 overall, committed yesterday. Malik Autry, Jacayla Falk, Eric Winters. Go down. Number 6 is Zion Grady, who's committed to Ohio State. Number 7, Derek Smith, a wide receiver. You got Jordan Crawford, defensive line, and Anquan Fegans, a safety. And number 10, Antonio Coleman on the defensive line, who has officially said that he is completely done flipping on everybody. I know that I think he decommitted because of Jeremy Garrett's departure to the Jags. But he talked to Vaughn, and he's back with Auburn. I think Auburn has solidified themselves as a top 5 at the minimum right now in this class. And of course, you got to wait until everyone signs. You got till December, so that's a good chunk of change away. That's 4 months until this very moment. But I like where Auburn stands on a lot of these guys. I don't know if Auburn is in for too many surprises. I mean, if they lose a couple of 3-stars because they feel like they might lose playing time because you're recruiting heavily at every single position. But I think Auburn pretty much stands where they are and brings in a lot of these guys that they're expecting to bring in and really solidify that top 5 class. Top 3 be a lot of work to get done for Auburn to get that top 3 class. You're looking at guys who Auburn has not picked up yet that you're kind of expecting to see kind of going down the list I made here. Starting off with Deuce Knight, quarterback out of George County in Mississippi, top 5 quarterback in the class of 2025, number 2 overall prospect in the state of Mississippi. This has been going wild on Twitter and, of course, message boards as well. Notre Dame fans are losing their minds over the over the speculation that there might be a flip from Deuce Knight, a dual threat quarterback. He's electric in every sense of the word. 4-star, very close to getting that 5th star based on his composite score. But if Auburn were to get him, you'd expect some more wide receivers to commit because they kind of just built around the wide receivers. The quarterbacks are kind of built around the wide receivers. The wide receivers kind of built around the quarterback. And when it comes to recruiting wise, you saw it last year with Walker White and the Freeze 4. They all kind of solidified themselves as, this is the group coming forward into the future of Auburn football, and can see it here too. But Deuce Knight, this would be awesome if Auburn were to get Deuce Knight. You look at Walker White and you look at the potential he has, and it's great. And you can't wait to see what he does. And then right after Walker White is done, Deuce Knight to step in and fill in the role right there. If you were to get him, of course. And I know a lot of people are expecting it, and I'm not in this kid's ear. I'm not. I keep up with recruiting at the sense that I sound intelligent whenever I'm talking about it, but I'm not an insider. I don't know all the stuff. I know that might rub people the wrong way, me saying that I'm not an insider. I just have an opinion on the matter. But it would be awesome for Auburn to get a guy like Deuce Knight to back up and kind of bring in the future of Auburn's quarterback room. Like Jalen Hurts and Tua in that year, that those two were like a year apart from each other, kind of like Walker and Deuce would be. It would just kind of, based on what they have and what their potential is, you could see. And of course, Auburn's trending in the right direction. And of course, you have to win games, but it'd be a huge pickup. Quarterbacks always solidify classes. You always want to get at least one quarterback in every single class. You never want to be down at the quarterback position, especially when you're expecting 2 guys to be leaving this year in Peyton Thorne, and you expect Holden Gerner to transfer out because his style of play doesn't really fit the mold of what Hugh Freeze is wanting to do in the future. But if you get a guy like Deuce Knight, you're solidified the quarterback position for this recruiting class, and you feel confident in yourself going forward that you have a trio of young quarterbacks, and adding Hank Brown into that mixture to kind of go into 2026 with. And another guy I've been hearing a lot about is Tyler Lockhart, a 4-star linebacker out of Mississippi as well as out of Winona, a guy that Auburn had committed earlier on. I know that right now I've seen some crystal balls for him to Mississippi State, but he's been heavily talking to Auburn. I've seen it all over Twitter, message boards, all that other stuff, where Auburn is very likely to get him back. This is not something that's a stranger to what we've seen in this recruiting class. Hollis Davidson, another tight end, decommitted from Auburn and has since recommitted to Auburn. So this is not something that I could that I'd be surprised by. And he's been constant contact with Auburn's coaches. Auburn's coach has been constant contact with him, as well as he's been trying. The thing with commitments nowadays, I don't know when exactly it started, but I do know that Travis Hunter at Colorado, or at that time Jackson State, was like a big component of this, where you just post, hey, this fan base, get me to 3,000 followers on Instagram, get me to this, and then he posted that, I want to say 2 days ago. So constantly trying to test the waters, what fan base wants him more. And of course, if you're on Twitter, Auburn has probably the most rabid fan base when it comes to Twitter users. But another great pickup, athletic linebacker that would add a lot to this class. It's 6'3", 200 pounds. Would fare very well with another linebacker in this class in Bryce Diaz, and I kind of see it get comments. Roy Eagle, Stephen, War Eagle, Chris, War Eagle Drexel, and War Eagle James. What's going on, everybody? People in the comments, give me your opinion on where you think Auburn's going to finish recruiting wise. I'm kind of sticking top 5. Highest, I think 4. Highest, I think you could flip a couple of guys. But I'm very interested about another recruiting class in this cycle. But last guy I have on my list of guys I could see Auburn picking up in the next month or so would probably be Usman Kroma. This has been a guy we've talked about for so long. Auburn wants two running backs in this class. You got Alvin Henderson. He's going to be your guy, the guy who's going to be breaking ankles. He's going to get to the outside. He's going to outrun the corners and the edge rushers trying to get yards that way. Usman Kroma. He is a dude who is going to run right through you. 5'11", 200 pounds, out of Lee County in Georgia, not Alabama. Number 7 running back in the class. Number 5, go by the composite. Number 11 overall prospect in the state of Georgia. Could be another top 100 prospect for Auburn to pick up. And he's not committed anywhere, but I knew Auburn is one of the heavy favorites to grab him because Auburn has been really trying to get, after losing Jamarian Burnett last year, you kind of left a gap between your running back room. Of course, after this year, you're still going to have Damari Alston and Jeremiah Cobb. And then you got Alvin Henderson and hopefully Usman Kroma coming in. And I didn't do the math on where Auburn would be if those 3 guys did end up committing to Auburn, but I do believe it would jump you bare minimum past LSU, but you still got some ground to cover to get with the other guys in Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State. Alabama is a class I'm kind of looking forward to see how that kind of goes in. Because if Alabama doesn't start off hot, like I know their schedule is kind of easy, but if they don't start off hot, who knows what will happen there. And then we got James Barnett. We're about to land a top 30 class. I would love Auburn to get it. And I guess I said if you get past LSU in 24/7, I guess would not be far behind Georgia, but you got to get some 5 stars in this class for the top 3. Drexel Kilpatrick. I think Sam Turner, Georgia Tech recruit, will be next. I've seen a lot about him. I know On3 kind of posted a video about him today. I don't know too much about Sam Turner to give my opinion on him. I know he's a 3-star, and he's a very athletic and talented. And I just have not done my due diligence of research on him. But I have heard a lot about him potentially flipping, which would be really cool. But kind of going into this season, Auburn has a tough slate of games in the month of October. After you get through Alabama A&M, which I'll be there in attendance for that game. Cal, New Mexico, and then Arkansas are your first 4 games of the season. I think you start off 4-0. I don't think that's going to be an issue whatsoever. Then you got Oklahoma, Georgia, bye week in Missouri, and then you go to Kentucky to kind of round out that 4-game period. And of course, the entire month of October sounds like it's going to be horrific. In sense of, I don't know. I think Auburn picks up 1 game in the month of October against Kentucky. I don't think Missouri and Oklahoma or Georgia will be wins right now. But you end up the season with, Vanderbilt. We talk about the ULM game on the Tuesday show. Then you got A&M. Then you got, Vandy, ULM. Okay, yeah, ULM, Texas A&M, and Alabama. I'm trying to memorize the schedule as I'm going, but you got to slate the games to where you could go undefeated at home. And you got, 7 home games this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 8 home games this year. And sorry about the typing because my computer is very loud. But you got 8 home games this year. If Auburn can win all 8, and I know that's going to be a lot because you have a team in Oklahoma that's going to be coming into the SEC, really hoping to make a statement, because beating Auburn and Jordan Hare is going to be a huge statement, especially if they can beat Tennessee the week prior. But overall, Auburn's got to win games. That is the truth of the matter for this season. And I'm not saying you need to win 10 games. You don't need to. I think at the max you need to win 8 to show the proof of concept. The fact that, hey, 2025 guys, 2026 guys, last year was the worst that we'll ever be under Hugh Freeze. Because if you look at this season, we've gotten better. And that's even a game on you will do numbers right there. But with Alabama A&M, Cal, New Mexico, and Arkansas, you can expect a 4-0 start at home. Vanderbilt, count as a win. ULM, count that as a win. And then that's 6. That gets you bowl eligibility at the bare minimum. Then you have A&M, and then you have Oklahoma, which are going to be the tougher games to win at home. Oklahoma, probably the more tougher of the two. A&M, that game, I am so enticed by that A&M game, strictly because I don't know where Elko was going to have this team. This is a team just 2 years ago, if my math is correct. They had the number 1 class in recruiting history. They had I don't know the exact number. I'm just going to exaggerate. 35 stars. They had all these guys who, put A&M on the map per se. And everyone expected big things from A&M. Desmond Howard put them in his college football playoff. You expected great things for this recruiting class and never really follow through with it. But now you have Elko, who's kind of getting the downslide of the A&M recruiting class, if any of those guys are still around. So I'm very interested how that game goes. But when you look at going into this season, 8 games is manageable. That 8 games is so manageable. It's so easy to grab a hold of 8 games here, because again, the games I have already chalked, and I know you'll see this whenever we do the boss toss or loss for the War Poor. There's only 3 games that I am not giving Auburn the benefit of the doubt in. It's Georgia, it's Alabama, and it's Missouri. I think those 3 right now. At least Alabama depends. Missouri and Georgia, I feel pretty confident in those teams. Not for Auburn not getting the wins there, because you know what Kirby's got at Georgia. I make a joke there. And of course, Missouri, I think you've seen what Eli Drinkwitz is building in Columbia. Alabama's another interesting one. But if you got Oklahoma, I think if Auburn beats Oklahoma on week 5, if I'm not thinking it's week 5, Auburn has a bye week in the first few weeks. I know they have one between Georgia and Missouri, and they have one between Vanderbilt and ULM. That's right. If you beat Oklahoma at home in the afternoon, which that whole thing is annoying to me, but Georgia's playing Alabama that day. If you beat Oklahoma at home, I think you are hitting the high points of the season at that moment. I think that you are going to see Auburn only drop maybe 3 games. I think if you beat Oklahoma, you beat A&M, and then all you got to worry about is the Iron Bowl, Georgia, Missouri, and you got to try to flip those 3 games. If Auburn beats Oklahoma, they will win a game they're not supposed to out of those 3 games. And that's kind of where I'm at. And that's not me saying Auburn's going to go 10-2. Don't take that for 8-4 is where I'm standing, and I am going to solidify that until they, make me put these on, which I'm very tempted to. I think Auburn fans, including myself, I'm wearing the Barner hat for a reason. Auburn's got a lot to book about going into this year. And I don't think it's going to – on the field results are going to be a whole other issue to talk about, because that's going to be something we have to wait. Again, right now, as we stand, 27 days until Auburn football is back on our TVs, or we are all back in beautiful Jordan Hare Stadium watching Auburn take on Alabama A&M. But overall, the proof of concept has to be there for these recruits to see where Auburn is. I mean, right now, Auburn is the number 1 class in 2026. And those guys need to see that Auburn is a place where they can go develop and improve on. And I know that Hugh's been very adamant about this. Like, hey, we need such amount of recruiting classes until we're competing at this high level. We need these players. We need we need this scheme to fit in. We need to be able to pass the ball more. We need to be able to balance out the offense. All these things have been kind of put together for Hugh Freeze to see a path to the SEC championship, see a path to the college football playoffs. So when you look at what Hugh Freeze has been saying, he's been very adamant about that. And that's something I really like about Hugh Freeze, is the fact that he is overtly honest about where he sees his team going to be at. He came into last year not saying, we're not going to win a championship this year. That's something that's very adamant, because you get coaches. Of course, you want to win the championship. You want to win a lot of games. But he sees the concept of, I was not hired to win. I was not hired to – I can't be hired right now to win with this team. This is not my team, so I can't win with it right now. Give me a year. Give me the 2-3 years. Let me implement my scheme. Hugh Freeze likes to run that run and gun level offense. You saw with Chad Kelly and Bo Wallace, where they throw the ball over the field. They had guys like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, Laquan Treadwell, guys like that, Evan Ingram, who could just throw for 300-400 yards a game, and it was awesome to watch. I remember I loved watching Hugh Freeze's Ole Miss team, especially the 2 years in a row they beat Alabama. But it takes time to get there. Hugh Freeze in his first year at Ole Miss didn't win. I think he went 5-7. He didn't even make it to a bowl game. The year after that, I think he added a win or 2 to it. I think he won 7 games. And then after that, kind of got a little higher and higher up on the list. And then, of course, the fill in the blank happened. And you get with the Liberty and turned Liberty around. Malik Willis was a legitimate like conversation piece for who would be the top quarterback taken in the 2021 draft class, which I believe right now or 2022, whichever one, that draft class kind of fall into meme culture as one of the worst quarterback draft class in history. But overall, it takes time. And I think the thing that I love about the Auburn fan base that I'm a part of and have been for all of my life, that it's, and I'm scared to say it this way, but they understand that this takes time. And everyone understands that 2013 and 2010 are all outliers. You literally got a superhuman in 2010 who carried a team full of carried an offense full of guys who I don't think they took a snap in the NFL. I know they didn't get drafted. I don't think many of them really took a snap in the NFL. I could be wrong about that, but I believe Zema might be the only one I'm like thinking about, but led them to a championship. 2013, you had a team built up of guys who can win games, but you're in first year of a coach, and that was an outlier that a first-year coach took a team to the national championship. And, of course, Auburn didn't win that game. Kelvin Benjamin, back-to-back years, gave me the most misery of my life watching him beat my team in the national championship and then watching him ruin the wide receiver core of my favorite NFL team. But those are outliers. And you see teams get built up. Look at Nick Saban starting off at Alabama. And I'm not comparing the two in a sense. I'm never – as an Auburn fan, I'm going to say this right now. Nick Saban is the greatest coach to ever step foot on a college football field. And that goes to every coach. Nick Saban is the GOAT in all sense of the word, and I probably lose viewers for saying that, but it's true. Every Auburn fan should agree on that. We saw all of it. We have witnessed literally the entire start of Nick Saban, the peak of Nick Saban, and I want to say the fall off, but I can't because his last season coaching at Alabama, he went to the college football playoff. So he is the greatest coach of all time. But you saw this. You saw the build up. You saw him recruit guys like Julio Jones. You saw him recruit guys like Trent Richardson, guys that you can remember Auburn. We start off with Reuben Foster, a guy that Auburn should have gotten. Dude signed to Alabama with an Auburn logo tattooed on his arm. I remember that vividly, and that happened when I was like in middle school. You have this buildup of classes that Nick Saban did. He started winning the state of Alabama. He started winning, other states. He started winning the Southeast, and you see similences of that with how Hugh Freeze is recruiting. I don't think Auburn has had a coach like this, where recruiting the high school level is like primary, like priority number one. Like Hugh Freeze sees a guy that he wants at the high school level, and he's going to try his hardest to get him. And you saw that with the class 2023. All the big guys that Auburn picked up the class 2023 were mostly flips. And class 2024, a lot of the big guys from the Freeze Four, the Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman, more on Perry Thompson in a second, were flips. And you talk about the rest of the class. And you're getting into the year 2025 where you haven't flipped a lot of guys. If I'm not mistaken, I could probably go down the list and look. Alvin Henderson was a flip, and Antonio Coleman was a flip, and Derek Smith were all flips. And that's all to my knowledge of where they are right now. Only 3 out of the 22 are flips. And you go into 2026, you already have guys committed to you right now. You're starting to see the change of where you're starting to rely less on flipping recruits to getting them to commit and stay committed throughout it. And that's what you want to see as the program gets built up. And this is not me. And Hugh Freeze said this. I think he said after the 2026 class is when you start expecting it. After this 2025 class has a chance to bring Auburn back to that SEC championship level. I think you have hit on every single position of need, every single position that you need depth at. Exquisitely. I don't think Auburn has really missed on a guy in this class that has committed though. I mean, you even got your next punter of the future, which is crazy, and you got him from Thompson, which you're just recruiting all the guys out of Thompson right now. Hugh Freeze has Thompson's head coach on speed dial right now, but overall, if Hugh Freeze can go into this year and show that, this recruiting class that we just watched all sign with Auburn. If these guys can watch that recruiting class come and make a big difference and watch Auburn, I don't know, still get a game up from last year, get 7 wins, get 8 wins. Even that's what Auburn needs to really show, hey, we're building something special over here. Hey, we're not the Auburn that you're used to seeing. A lot of these guys, I've been Auburn fan since 2004. I was born in 2000. So cognitively, I can only remember Auburn in 2004. I went to a game. I went to the Citadel in 2004. Don't ask me any questions about it. I was 4 years old. Don't remember the game whatsoever. But since then, I know what Auburn has looked like. Auburn has never been, in my recollection, has never been the team to beat recruiting wise in Alabama. They've rarely been second or third place in some aspects. And you're kind of seeing a shift. And Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, I don't think Alabama's going to trickle off into obscurity under Kalen DeBoer. I think if he doesn't win games within 3 seasons, they'll fire him, or maybe even 2, depending on how bad it gets. But he doesn't understand the Southeast like the rest of the coaches do. And a lot of these guys are committing to Alabama as a idea, not as an institution. In that sense of Nick Saban was a primary reason why a lot of these big ticket recruits were committing to Alabama. And Alabama that Nick Saban has built is what they're committing to now. So kind of thinking that if that idea, the ideology of Alabama starts to wear off, there's not a lot right now that Kalen DeBoer can say or do that, unless he changes into this, Southeastern recruiting mastermind. But that West Coast ideology of recruiting doesn't really work in the Southeast. In the Southeast, you got, and it probably works the same way over there, but I know this is the Southeast. Family is a huge concept. And I know I've heard a lot of recruits. I think Malzahn was one of that. I remember seeing this a lot, where you got to recruit the moms too. That your number one target is your recruits' parents. That is who you're trying to get mostly. And I'll get some comments. I'll go through them in a second. But the Southeast is so different than the West Coast when it comes to recruiting. You have to show, hey, your family can go and watch you play every weekend. It's only an hour drive. It's only a 2-hour drive. And it won't take long for you to come watch them play. And we like what your kid offers to our team, and you might get to see him play earlier than you might think. So that's something that Hugh Freeze is really shifting. And I know one of my favorite recruit parents, grandparent at that, is Willie Riddick. Demarcus Riddick's grandma. She is the funniest personality I've seen. She is just hilarious, and you see a lot of pictures with her and Hugh Freeze, and she loves Hugh Freeze. Got pictures, all the pictures with him. But you're seeing how he recruits. He recruits the family as well as the player. So that's something that's really cool to see with Hugh Freeze, and hopefully that continues. And Auburn wins at least 8 games, at least 7 games, to kind of show that they're improving. I don't want to say 8 and be that kind of fan, but gotta go through some comments. War Eagle Paul, Drexel Kilpatrick 8-5 counting bowl game would be okay. That's perfect. Because in that case, you have 7-5. That's better than last year. And then you make it to the bowl game. I would hope if it's 7-5, 8-5 means they won the bowl game. Or 8-4 regular season, lost the bowl game. I guess it'd be fine too. But as an Auburn fan, I kind of want to watch Auburn start winning these postseason games. It's been very annoying not seeing that. Last bowl game for Auburn that they won, I want to say Purdue Music City Bowl. That was and that game was awesome to watch. 63-14. Boobie Whitlow played good. Rarity and Noah Igbenogany. I believe that was the game that he got. Was that game, or was it Northwestern where he got a special teams touchdown? One of those two. I think Auburn did get one that game. Joseph Brock says War Eagle from Fayette, Alabama. War Eagle Joseph. War Eagle Trevor. War Eagle Paul. Again, I love Nick as a coach, but I hate him as Alabama's coach. That is exactly how I felt about Nick Saban. As a person, I love Nick Saban. As a coach, he is the greatest of all time. it was always the fact that I hated him because he had to coach at Alabama. I would have been fine if he could. Like LSU, when he was at LSU, it was okay. I don't remember him too much at LSU at all, but if he was at LSU, it'd be fine. I remember him in Madden 07. He was the Dolphins coach. I was fine with the Dolphins. I didn't hate the Dolphins. But then he went to Alabama, and I immediately hated him. And Alabama fans hated him too for a year when he lost to ULM. But yeah, greatest coach of all time, without a doubt. If Coach Hugh Freeze flips the other Alabama 5-star from Ohio State, gets Notre Dame quarterback to flip and pick up 5-star OT along with Chroma. But 5-star OT is Andrew Babasola, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to get his name right. With Chroma, we could end up with a number 1 class, just saying. Number 1 might be that'd be a huge class. You'd have to get a couple more 5-stars along that, because Deuce is a 4. It's Ohio State. I think that's not me saying that it's impossible. Believe me, I think it's very possible. Ohio State's class could end up being a very special level of class right now, which that's a whole other hilarious thing, because I think it's funny that 2 guys kind of going up the coat trails of the great coach before them, and Ryan Day and Nick and Kalen DeBoer kind of riding the coattails of their program, and number 1 and number 2. Also, I think if Ohio State doesn't win a championship this year, it's absolutely embarrassing to Ryan Day, because right now Ohio State, I believe, has the best roster in college football. They picked up the best running back in the college football from the portal. If Ohio State does not win a national championship this year, if they're not thinking about firing Ryan Day for not being able to win games, that's a whole other can of worms for Ohio State. Drexel, the Pat Dye days are going to be hard to beat. Yeah, I missed. Let me see the years. What Pat Dye's last year at Auburn was 1992, because that would have been Terry Bowden's first year, 93, when Auburn went undefeated, but was under the NCAA investigation. So that would have been 8 years before I was born. So I know all about the Pat Dye days. I remember I've seen the Bo Jackson documentary. I even shed a tear when Pat Dye passed, because I didn't even get to really witness the greatness that was Pat Dye. And I remember Pat Dye. I think Pat Dye had, I can't remember the season he had. I think he had I remember his first season at Auburn. It wasn't like the best, but then he turned around and got Bo Jackson, and then it went all up from there. But I would love to go back. I think you have to pay for War Eagle Plus to go watch all the Pat Dye games, but I would love to go watch some of the great moments with those great games that he coached at Auburn, especially because I think the first coach I really remember was Tommy Tuberville, which that now has a bad taste in some Auburn fans' mouth because of how that ended. But the Got 6 era was like peak for me in elementary school, because I no Bama fan could talk to me without oh, well, y'all can't even beat us. What makes you think you can talk to me, and all kind of stuff. But I do wish I could go back and kind of relive some of those moments that Pat Dye had at Auburn. Teresa, that would be amazing for Jen. Talking about that comment. War Eagle Clifford, and yeah, there we go. All caught up on the comments. But yeah, that kind of does it for recruiting. I'm going to go to an ad break. When we get back and talk about fall camp, because we got some dudes on the outside that might make that 8 wins a little easier. So on the side of this break, we'll be right back. Of course, you're listening to the College Loop podcast.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes, looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt, as well as your College Loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
That's on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop. First page, College Loop hat, comes in 4 different colorways, $25. Next page, College Loop shirt, 5 different colorways, also $25. Go check those out. They are most comfortable things you're going to wear your entire life. It's the greatest thing to wear them both at the same time, because your mood actually doubles. You were 10 times happier than you were before you put on the College Loop merch. So go check that out today. And of course, if you like what you see on the show, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, leave your thoughts for what you think Auburn's going to finish in the class 2025. I know we got a couple of James is one of my fellow boogers in terms of that's going to be weird to say. I think where you're really the top 3 class. I'm all for the bug in here. Auburn. I love when Auburn fans bug. It's the greatest feeling ever. That's why these goggles eventually will be put on. I'm gonna wait till Auburn starts playing football games before I wear those actually. But as we get started with the next little segment, talk about fall camp has started for the Auburn Tigers, and as one may know, Perry Thompson came into his first season at Auburn. So you had Cam Coleman. He got a nice little winter break to get into shape. I think he gained like 20 pounds of muscle, if I remember correctly from Twitter. Back I think after the bowl game happened, came into the spring camp just fit to the bone. Cam Coleman came in, looked the part right away, and came into the 8-day game and absolutely stole the show with some of his great catches. He also has a nice little picture Auburn football posted yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or Friday, of a great grab that he made. But Perry Thompson, dude, looks like he could stiff arm a truck. He is, I think he's 6'3", 220, if I'm not mistaken. I think 250, somewhere in that weight zone. Dude, he is a dog. I have seen so many clips of him. He is just absolutely killing it. And him and Keandre Lambert-Smith as well. Keandre Lambert-Smith is another guy that I've been hearing a lot about. This is the first time that Auburn's been able to see both of those guys in uniform at this point, outside of media days. But these guys look the part, and you're incorporating the fact that back over the summer, I can't remember exactly when. I remember I made 2 videos going around my projected depth chart for Auburn going into this year. And I had, Cam Coleman as wide receiver 1, Keandre Lambert-Smith and the other outside guy, and Robert Lewis as the slot guy. And I listened to War Report this morning where they talked about this as well. And I fully agree with them on this. There's a good chance that Perry Thompson could be getting some. I think he'll still be behind a guy. But I think that it's going to be very hard for Hugh Freeze to not find a place for Perry Thompson in this offense in his first year. And again, this goes back to the proof of concept thing. Seeing Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson, the 2 front runners for your class of 2024, the guys who really helped you steal the show. Perry Thompson got flipped from Alabama, Big Cat weekend, gave Auburn one of the highest grossing in terms of fan engagement of watching this happen like live. Or not, I didn't happen live, but watching Auburn's shift into being a recruiting powerhouse live. And then you got Cam Coleman, who, of course, is he was number 2 wide receiver in the class 2024, right behind Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State. You got to see him right away. And, you expect both these guys to start all 3 years of college, that they'll be here more than likely. I don't think there's a way that these guys are going to be here for all 4 years. It'd be awesome if they would. I feel like both of those guys would be number 1, number 2 in some record books if they stayed all 4 years. But 3 years, I believe they'll be in the NFL. And Auburn, you can't really talk much more about Auburn not having guys in the NFL wide receiver position anymore. But these 2 guys fit the mold of all SEC caliber wide receivers. Keandre Lambert-Smith, of course, a dude adding into that, as well as Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. Keandre was another guy at Penn State who, I believe he led them in yards or led them in touchdowns, one of the 2, but a primary target in a lackluster Penn State offense. I can say that, not as a Penn State fan, but as a fact I picked Penn State to win the national championship last year just to watch their rivals do it. But I never know there. I'll see if the NCAA vacates that national championship or not. Jury's still out on that. But those 2, it's been the biggest talking point that I've seen from fall camp starting, and it's only been really 2 days of fall camp. But the wide receiver room, again, I've already said this. I've already been all over the map about how much I think this wide receiver core could be one of Auburn's best all time, just in terms of depth and talent level. This is showing out right now, because you're watching true freshmen in terms of Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson come into their first career year in college and perform just absolutely poetry in a sense of the word. You're watching guys like those 2 who, programs are built off of the recruitment of players like those 2. And I think there's a good chance Perry Thompson could see a lot of the same field as Cam Coleman. I think you might, if I'm just imagining just those two lone outside wide receivers, Perry Thompson and Cam Coleman, watching those two just run routes together to be, again, like I said earlier, poetry. But you add in veteran guys like Robert Lewis and Condre Lambert-Smith. You add in, Caleb Burton, Camden Brown, guys from last year that you're hoping kind of develop a little bit more and going into this year. I think Bryce Cain and Malcolm Simmons, you might see a little bit of them in some games, but I think ultimately those two might get redshirted just to see how they develop in the future. I mean, Malcolm Simmons is an athletic freak. Bryce Cain is probably the fastest guy on the team. Kind of see how they develop into develop into the wide receiver position more as an SEC caliber wide receiver, and just kind of see how those two get built up. Of course, I'll get to join a lot of the guys that Auburn will be picking up in this class. But overall, those two have been the highest grossing talking points for this recruiting class. And I don't know how much that phrase makes sense there, but I've heard so much about Perry Thompson in the past 24 hours. It's crazy. And he's proven why. I think Auburn, again, this is going to be the greatest. Not the greatest. Let me rephrase my term. This is going to be the best. That's kind of the synonym. But this is going to be the best wide receiver Auburn has seen in forever. And you go back. I think the last time Auburn had a fully loaded wide receiver room, it might have to go back to, I think, 20. I'm trying to think. Was there any? I can't remember if there was any correlation between Sammy Coates and Duke Williams. But 2013, I remember you had Sammy Coates, Ricardo Lewis, which weren't the best guys. But you go 2010. I'll go back 2010 because I can remember those guys more. Not more. I would say more better. I remember those guys better. You had guys like Darvin Adams. You had Emory Blake. You had Terrell Zachary. You had just guys like that who just were, as a core, were really freaking good. And then you go back to 2004. You have guys like Ben Abamanu and why I don't know why they're not coming up in my brain. Devin Aromashodu, and there's another guy I'm forgetting about who's like one of Auburn's best receivers ever. I don't know why I'm not remembering him. I'm going to have an aneurysm if I don't. So give me a second. Or if someone I don't want to say old, but one of our more veteran Auburn fans can help me remember this receiver's name. Craig Sanders, if I'm not mistaken. I'm making sure of that because I'm going to Courtney Taylor. There we go. I don't know where that name came from. Courtney Taylor. That wide receiver room was one of Auburn's best as well. But you're going to this year, and like I said all the names before, and if you look at the tight end room as well, this is a core group of pass catchers with a level of talent that Auburn has not seen in at least 20 years when you go back to 2004. If you want to go back 14 years to 2010, where Auburn had those dudes as well as Philip Lutzenkirchen. And 2013, I think that CJ Uzama and Sammy Coates are really your two biggest pass catchers. Ricardo Lewis, I remember him more for being fast and one miraculous catch as well as a few drops that he has made throughout his career. But overall, it's been forever since Auburn fans have had a wide receiver to be this excited about. If you go back to 2019, you had Seth Williams, who was your best pass catcher by far. But after that, it kind of fell off a little bit. 2018, you had Ryan Davis, who was catching the ball 40 times a game, but they weren't using him properly. And the wide receivers weren't really all there for Jarrett Stidham. And you're seeing this change happen where, Auburn is going to be able to pass the ball more. I have been praying for years for an intermediate passing game to come to Auburn. Gus Malzahn didn't do it. Brian Harsin didn't do it. And jury's out on when Hugh will implement it. I'm sure he will at some point, but the team's not built for it right now. And of course, I think he said you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel. Even during media day, SEC media day, he said that he wants his team's strongest point to be their run game. But with Keandre Lambert-Smith and Perry Thompson balling out in the spring, you're hearing great things about Robert Lewis. You're hearing great things about, constantly about Cam Coleman. Valdo is going to go into this year as, if not the best, one of the best tight ends in the SEC. You can hopefully see that in the first 4 games where maybe they try out some more stuff. They try out some new stuff in terms of passing the ball a little bit more. So that's mostly what we've been hearing from fall camp. Of course, I was not there. There could have been more stuff, but I've mostly been seeing the Perry Thompson and Lambert Smith stuff. But that going to kind of move on to our last little news tidbits, and then I'll get out of here. Men's basketball news: Chuma Okeke has now been signed to the New York Knicks. No longer is he an Orlando Magic player. I don't know if there's a plural for Magic's player, but it doesn't sound right if I don't say he's forget it. Gymnastics news. If you watch the Olympics, Suni Lee has won 2 more medals. They're both has won bronze medals for the uneven bars and individual all around. This is also a couple of days after she won the gold with the team. Suni Lee now has 6 total medals in the Olympics. Just an absolute GOAT athlete. Again, Auburn, build the statue. That's all I'm saying. I think, you got Charles Barkley. You've got some other guys you could probably put statues up of for men's basketball. You also got a lot of people you can do it for women's basketball. DeWanna Bonner comes to mind right away. Honest Scott Grayson, maybe. Potentially, maybe. Gymnastics, I think Darian Goborn, it's Suni Lee, definitely. I think you can have a conversation about Cassie Stevens maybe doing it. She was an All-American 2 years ago as we stand. But just saying, we could go for more statues going around praising all of our awesome athletes. But that being said, that kind of does it for the Summit of the College League podcast. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been a lot more people than I am used to. That is a bad thing. I love whenever y'all interact with me. I love all the comments, all the War Eagles from all the places in Alabama. But of course, I'm Dylan Larck on Twitter. You catch me there talking about whatever comes to my mind at that moment in time. Also, be on the Warport Gaming channel where I'm trying to rebuild Kennesaw State into a championship level program. Spoiler alert, it is very hard to do that. I had to lower the difficulty to All-American just so I could beat Louisiana Lafayette. It was horrible. I had to have I post the clip later on, but that was a tough game. But that is up right now on the Warport Game. That's CWR Gaming. After this stream, I'll tag it somewhere to where y'all can go check it out there. Also check me out on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of those on the College Loop social media websites. That's all in the link description below. All the social media is in the link description below, as well as the merch. But of course, thanks for tuning in to the Summit of the College Loop podcast. Again, I'm Dylan Larck, and as always, War Eagle.